Oliver Ellsworth was born April 29, 1745, and died November 26, 1807 in Windsor, Connecticut. He attended Yale in 1762, but then transferred to Princeton University. He studied theology, and 2 years later he turned to studying law and was admitted to the bar in 1771. After 2 years, he married a very high-end woman named Abigail Wolcott, and they had 9 children. Ellsworth later then built up his own law practice and built up a good reputation for himself. In 1777, Oliver Ellsworth became Connecticut's state attorney for Hartford County. He was appointed Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Oliver Ellsworth left his mark in history through an amendment to change the word national to United States in a resolution. Ellsworth favored the Three-Fifths Compromise. He served as a senator in New Connecticut federal government and was appointed by George Washington, spent his final years as a senator.
Supreme Court Case Gonzales v. Oregon. The case on Gonzales v. Oregon was a 6-3 vote. They tried to turn over the Death of Dignity Act. The Death of Dignity Act was a law that was passed in Oregon in 1994. In 1997, it was challenged by the Oregon Legislative Assembly that set out to appeal this case. More people supported it the second time than the beginning time, including 10% more people supporting it. The Conservative Party of President Bush opposed it to the assisted suicide.
The Gonzales v. Oregon case reached the Supreme Court because it was challenged by the Attorney General. Not until it reached the Supreme Court in 2005, Ashcraft stepped down for Gonzales to take over the case. Gonzales made his case by saying the Controlled Substance, or the CSA, deregulated the flow of drugs. He argued that the CSA, which regulates the flow of drugs, allowed the federal government to have power over drugs in Oregon to be used in assisted suicide. The prosecution argued that the CSA-controlled substances under law must be prescribed and dispensed for legitimate medical purposes only. And if there was anything to be considered an illegitimate purpose for these drugs, it would be the cease of them to end a person's life. Oregon had its own arguments too. The defendant's side, led by Oregon's Attorney General Robert Atkinson, argued that the assisted suicide was a medical practice because it was relieving people of their pain. The defense also said that the Attorney General was not trying to prevent legal drug trafficking as CSA was originally intended, but instead to control how the drugs were used, which had previously been left to the states. The judges thought the Attorney General was stretching the law further than it was supposed to go. He did not have the authority to interpret the law the way he did. The CSA was created to prevent drug trafficking, not to give power to the federal government to control assisted suicide and how the drugs are used. The people of Oregon wanted the law even after the attempt to appeal the law in 1997. The people supported the law more strongly than ever.